So, welcome to this online webinar about scientific publication developing the field of early childhood education. It's an international open access online webinar, and it's hosted by the ECEC, Journal of Early Childhood Education Research Scientific Journal, which is joined by leading researchers from Finland on the field of ECEC. The themes that we are discussing in this webinar are broad, developing our understanding of today's teacher education programs, in-service training, developing pedagogical practices, and also giving us a critical reflection of the processes as well as the future orientation. We have today here 7 panelists participating in this webinar, and I would like to very warmly welcome you all. Thank you for being here today with us, discussing and also leading the research of early childhood education further on. I will briefly ask you to introduce yourself, and let's start from the professor of Heidi Harju-Luukkainen, who is our host today here in the Sydenius Institute in University of Kokkola. So please, Heidi.
Thank you very much, Jonna. It is my great pleasure to be here. My name is Heidi Harju-Luukkainen, and I work here at the University of Jyväskylä, Kokkola University Consortium, as a professor of education, as well as a director, vice director of the consortium. And well, my educational field is quite broad that I work with. So I work all the way from TIMSS, PIRLS, PISA, international assessments, to early childhood education questions and developing the field of early childhood education and teacher profession.
Thank you, Heidi. And then I would kindly ask Professor Eeva Hujala also to present yourself, please.
Okay. I am Emerita professor at University of Tampere and a founder of journal ECEC, that journal that I'm very proud of it, and because it's my baby. I have been working at many universities in Finland and abroad, and last visit was to South Africa. I worked there as a visiting professor in Pretoria, and my research areas have been parent-teacher cooperation, quality evaluation, and the latest one is leadership and management in ECEC. Nice to be here.
Thank you, Eeva. And then Jyrki, if you would be so kind to introduce yourself.
Yes, nice to meet you, everybody. I'm Jyrki Reunamo, and for the last 13 years, my main interest has been progressive feedback, which is an early education development and research project, mainly giving feedback for the educators, for the municipalities, cities, and the service providers, and also providing articles and books for the scientific community. Nice to be here. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And then would it be your turn, Merja?
Hello, everyone. My name is Merja Koivula, and I come from University of Jyväskylä Department of Education, and there from early childhood education. And I work as a senior lecturer there. And my field is children's social emotional learning in general, and then I'm interested of digital technologies in early childhood education, and also some other topics regarding early childhood education. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Jenni, would you be so kind?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Jenni Salminen, and I currently work as a postdoc researcher at the Department of Teacher Education at the University of Jyväskylä. And lately, my research has focused on examining teacher-child interaction across different age groups and especially through structural observation instruments. And particularly my research has dealt with the aspect of how different characteristics and types of interaction and teacher support can benefit children's learning and development, both in the context of early childhood education, but also in the primary education. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Then Samuli, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Samuli Ranta. I'm university researcher from University of Eastern Finland, but I live in a couple of kilometers from Arctic Circle in Rovaniemi. In my PhD study, I research the positive pedagogy, how teachers can support the child's learning and well-being. And my main result was continuous field of ECEC and preschool. And I think that gives the concrete tool of how to develop pedagogy of ECEC. And I found 5 different areas how to support children learning and well-being. And one of these was teamwork. And at the moment, my research interest is focused especially on teamwork and functionality of the teamwork. And that was all about me. Glad to be here.
Thank you everybody for your nice introduction. And now all the attendees know about how wide and multiple field our research cover. Maybe I also introduce myself shortly here. So I'm a docent, a PhD of education in the University of Helsinki, where I work as the university lecturer and the director of the blended teacher training programs in the early childhood education. I do my research in the Playful Learning Center laboratory, where we are strongly focusing on the playful learning, participatory learning processes. And then I also work closely with the political science, make research about policy documents and political decision making that are guiding or leading the childhood education practices, especially in Finland and then in the developing countries. And today we are trying to answer some quite of broad questions. For example, do the early childhood education research practices have influence on the field of education or any accountability considering the society, maybe in Finland, in Nordic countries, but then more globally also. And we also aiming to find some critical aspects, maybe even gaps between the current research and then the practices and policies of early childhood education. We are aiming to maybe answer the question that how the ECEC and especially the research in the field of early childhood education is going to look in the future. Not an easy topic for the panelists today. I would first like to ask from Eeva and Jyrki, have you, or I know that you have experienced the changes and the big challenges of Finnish early education during the past reforms during your long career. So what do you think, what could we learn from the past research processes in Finland of the early childhood education? And is there maybe something that we really should consider when we are aiming towards the future research? Jyrki, would you please start?
Oh, this is a long question, but I have to keep it short. When I started doing research, I remember my professor Erkki Olkinuora saying that there is some Eeva Huttunen in Joensuu doing research on early education, and that was about all. And after that, a lot of things has happened. And I think the main change has been that research has become a central unit of early education. Early education development is more and more research-based every day. So early education is more and more something that can be measured, that can be evaluated, that can be worked on with scientific tools.
Please, Eeva, continue.
Okay. During my career, I have seen that amount of ECEC studies they have grown huge. And I think that we need all kind of research. All kind of research is valuable and important, but I have seen that, and it's my opinion based on my experience, that the research that is closely connected to ECEC practice is very beneficial. For example, action research, because it gives professionals a new way how to do their work. And I think that it has also impact to children's lives. And one other issue to speak for action research or kind of practice connected research is that when teachers are close to researchers and they do that research work together, they will be more motivated to be involved in doing their own research and also doing their PhD research. I'm very proud of our teachers. So many teachers, they have done their doctoral degree and so had impact in academic early childhood education in our country. Thank you, teachers.
That is a very important point that you are bringing forward, Eeva. Thank you. And thank you also, Jyrki. Now we looked a bit to the not so distant past, but maybe also raising the question to everybody here in the panel that have you been able to contribute something in the recently during the last year or two that you at the moment think that it can create a future research trend even? Maybe Samuli, if you would like to shortly answer to this. I know that you are the latest of us who have defend the thesis.
I think that one of the big trend is now the positive pedagogy, and I think that it's not every time the good thing that something coming very huge, because if something coming very fast, I think that there is so much different things but people doesn't understand. And also the term positive pedagogy, it's something that you can just think that, okay, positive pedagogy is positive emotions and everything like that, but you really doesn't understand what includes about that. And of course, we also have different kind of things how you can make the positive pedagogy. And we talk about positive pedagogy, positive education, positive learning, and we just think that it's the same thing. Why we have different terms if it's the same thing. So I think that there is more like in staff training about the positive pedagogy, that we have the research about that. And I know because I have struggled with that with my own PhD study, and I try to figure out what is the positive pedagogy, and it was very difficult to find that out. But I think that's one big part. But of course, I think also the under 3 years olds part of the ECEC one. What is the good thing that we get more research about that, and how we think they part of the ECEC. I know that Jenni knows more about that, but it's very important because that change have been in maybe 30 years ago, but just now we start to think that, okay, they are also here. We also have to teach them. Before that, it's have been more and more caring and take care. But what happens now? Of course, there's a lot of different kind of policy things about that. But I think I hope that we can see the under 3 years old also important part of that.
And I also think that there's some important kind of aspects in the Finnish early childhood education and in the Nordic system in general, where we consider that the learning really starts in the age of 9 months or 1 year, when our children are able to participate not only nursery care, but really in early childhood education that is following curriculums and kind of this kind of policy documents which have the same value and, well, maybe even meaning than with the older children or in the primary education children. Thank you, Samuli. You already mentioned about Jenni's expertise, so let's focus to a bit different sector. So Jenni and also maybe Heidi, large-scale international cooperation research creates also a lot of data about the current status of early childhood education, also here in Finland. And I know that you both have been involved in this kind of data collection, and also you have contributed a lot of excellent research about this kind of research settings. But do you think it is common that these researches could be used or used to create implementations about the practices for the policymakers? And can we think that nowadays, when through the ITC opportunities and easier video techniques, this could be the future of research also in early childhood education, that we should aim for larger data sets and bigger kind of cooperative researches in the field of early childhood education? And Jenni, if you would like to start.
Thank you for the question, which was also rather broad, I guess. So I'm trying to put on some perspectives. First of all, you were mentioning the broader data sets. I think it was the latter part of the question, but I was thinking that actually I think it's not always about the magnitude, but it's also about the quality of the research data. We need these trend data that we can predict, for example, certain future aspects or children's future development. But at the same time, I guess that we also need the other side, the high quality qualitative research, in which we kind of take a deeper look at the processes at the micro levels of education. Maybe reflecting to what you were asking about the international cooperation and how these large data sets and research is putting an input to policy making at the national level. And I will provide an example from our care study, which was an EU-funded project of 11 European countries. And the aim of the project at large was to look at the quality of early child education in Europe. How does it look? And one of the main dissemination aims of that project was to create through culture-sensitive discussions and elaborations and research, a set of quality indicators, that can be identified in all or most of the participating countries that constitute good quality ECEC. And I think that was an important part of operationalization of what quality does mean for kind of common European understanding. And although we did this at the European level, the most of the work has then being carried out at the national contexts, looking at how do these different indicators appear in different cultural contexts, in different educational systems, in these structures, so to say. And for example, in the Finnish context, the Finnish Education Evaluation Center has been carrying with the kind of the work that was initiated by the care study to implement these quality indicators into the Finnish early childhood education context. And being part of that process, I guess that's kind of a good example of how international research can have an important input on the national policy making level. I'm hoping I'm answering your question.
Thank you, Jenni. Would you like to, Heidi, contribute about your experience?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jenni. That was a very, very good answer on that topic. I was also wondering, I've been working with teams and pearls and large-scale international assessments. And I've also been working very much in the early childhood education field and research, within early childhood education. And recently we did with Professor Susie Garvis from Australia a paper. We analyzed the quantity of qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method research in the journals, early childhood education journals in the Nordic countries. And we found out that almost all of the research was qualitative. And therefore, I would like to, how would I put it? I would like to challenge the teacher educations across the Nordic countries, but also across the world, to think a little bit what type of research methods we are teaching our early childhood education teachers, our graduate students, and our doctoral students, because this is also building up the field of research on the field of early childhood education in the future. I like the idea of big data, using big data, but at the same time, I can see the problems, the challenges that they bring, because we can find huge cultural differences, different understandings of early childhood education, and the context, working context might be also very different. And then to sort of try to measure within these contexts and to look, across the context might be a little bit problematic, because we can find the similar kind of challenges when it comes to PISA, TIMSS or PEARLS studies as well. When it comes to the baby PISA, for instance, I'm very critical against it, and I think many in the Nordic countries are as well. I do not find it suitable for the Nordic context. We have multiple ways of assessing our early childhood education environments, and I think we should explore more of those ones as well. And I think it refers to where Jenni ended, to the quality of early childhood education. Good quality will have good educational outcomes always.
Thank you, Jenni and Heidi. I think this was very good conversation, and important one also, because I think the quality here, the question of what is quality or where it exists or does not exist, is one of the main questions that policymakers or kind of stakeholders of early childhood education often cast to the researchers of especially early childhood education, but then also the researchers of the whole education science, that can you prove that this works in the larger scale? And when we have to return to question them, that is there any larger scale that would fit in the same cultural conception of a high quality, because the high quality is not, it's not natural data of some kind coming from space, but it's something that in fact the teachers, the parents of young children, the children themselves, but also the policymakers who kind of trying to shape the society, the Finnish society we are living in, they kind of list the values, they list the beliefs behind the values, that what is a good childhood, what is high quality learning, or what are then maybe the opposites. And even that we are living in a very global world this time, even after the COVID, we still, I think, have to honor the national differences and also find those similarities and points of connection that we can then share with our international scholars and the friends that we are writing and discussing and debating about these questions. So very good and essential discussion here. Let's continue a bit about maybe the ECEC stakeholders. So Merja and Samuli, how do you think that the researchers and also these stakeholders who are kind of governing and making decisions and or participating in early education could work together to enhance and also maybe facilitate children's voices to be heard and respected in the society. So I'm asking from you that how the future research influences the very conception of the child. And Merja, would you please start?
Yes, thank you. I think the basic starting point should be that when we as researchers are planning for research projects, that we would stop and think, how do we approach children and how can we do research together with children, because they are the experts in their lives and we need to hear their perspectives and also transmit that information that we construct together with children to stakeholders, and that way we can make a difference. So that's one starting point, I think.
Thank you, Merja. Would you like to contribute, Samuli?
Yes, that was very good answer. Thank you, Merja. I also think that it's very important is how we see what is the role of the children in the early childhood education and care. And this have changed, and at the late when we coming to daycare, to the early childhood education and care. Of course, I feel it's very important that the actions development of the ECEC is based to research information. And in Finland, just now, when the changes happens, it's very important whose voices are listened there, because everyone have their own opinion about that what we should do. That's also a good thing, because it's look like that early childhood education care is very interesting now when everyone talk about that, but also you have to be critically about that. So what is good for the children, we have to think that also. I think that we have make a big step in society that people see the children participation about early childhood education very valuable. Of course, we also have a different opinion about that, but there was a big change in 2018 in Finland when they prepared the law of the early childhood education and care. And time more and more policymakers start to talk about early childhood education and how important part that is in the children learning trail. Before that, most of the policymakers doesn't really have opinion about early childhood education, or they have different view about that. So I think this is a very good part that we have made. But I think that it would be a huge step if they will be evaluating about decision making, how the different decision affect on the child in national and local. That would be good change, and research that can help about that also. We also have a couple of research pages text about our equality and equality opportunities in our blog Tutkittua varhaiskasvatuksesta. If somebody doesn't know what this means, it's a research about early childhood and education and care, that kind of blog. But inclusion is also one big part that we should do and what they are preparing now, and there are a lot of changes also now, and I'm very happy that it looks like that policymakers want to listen to researchers about that. I hope that there will be changes, and of course we also could look this also in the field also, but I think that there's so many different things about it.
Thank you, Merja and Samuli. And if I may, I would like to a little bit expand on this topic. Maybe to really, could we use the research, or can the research be designed so that we really could see what happens in the early childhood education, even from the viewpoint of child? And now I'm looking to Jyrki, who I know who have a long experience about really designing the research for this.
Jonna, I see you are a mind reader. I was just thinking, even more important than studying quality is about exposing the children's everyday activities, how they create the early education, how the early education culture is developed. Only when we understand these processes can we put the elements of quality on that. Only after that.
Thank you. This is very important notion too, and I think even I think there's a saying in English that we could treat a child like an open book because they don't yet kind of hide their emotions or their thoughts. But I still think that this is not maybe in the research field correct, and by looking at child, by observing the child, we can't see quite everything. But I think, Jenni, in your research about, especially in toddlers group, where the children don't necessarily talk out their mind because of their young age, you have used a bit different kind of research methodology to find out, for example, their emotional or social or empathetical attachment. Am I correct?
Yes, well, if we look at our data set, we've been indeed looking at children's empathic and kind of social development, but also the development of their self-regulation skills. But it has come through the evaluation of the teachers in the classroom or in the group. So I think this is a very important topic in the sense that what do we miss when we use these adult ratings or evaluations? We kind of try to determine what the child is like and what his or her experiences are like. And that's definitely a limitation in a study, in a sense that if we are striving toward understanding what's going on within the child, how the child observes and sees the world, that's a definite. We need some more methods to do that, like an observation or other methods. And I was also extending the idea that maybe observations, in a sense, or asking the child are as such important, but I was also thinking about children in vulnerable situations, the children who are not commonly heard, whose voices are silenced or not heard in this general discussion in the groups or in the different contexts. So to my understanding, these would be the important openings for the future research.
Thank you for bringing that out, and I can see that Jyrki wants to add something.
Yeah, because still it has an important point, because the research and the quality ideas, they are a sign of times also, and often they are, for example, if we consider interaction, for example, if we consider, for example, the class evaluation, it's about between the adult and the child interaction. But what really happens in early education are important are the child and child interactions. That happens much more, and that's where the participation happens. But those do not get as much attention as does the child interaction. So in there, when we study quality, we have the cultural and limitations of today's scientific emphasis.
Absolutely. And I also think that that's very important to kind of consider these different methodologies, and also what we know from the Finnish early childhood education, that teachers who have been trained with this research-based also methods to get or have information from children, they are able to use observations, interviews, their personal kind of assessments of individual children or the group as a base of how they then plan their work ahead. But I think, Jenni, you would add some comments also here, please.
Yeah, just brought into my mind that there was a very recent master thesis completed at the University of Jyväskylä, where our student Emilia Salonen was observing children in the classroom and exactly their peer relations and their communication during play episodes. And actually from the same data set as I was presenting today. And it was very interesting to see that once you deliberately change your perspective and you focus only on the child-child interaction, what kind of nuances does that observation provide? For instance, just looking at how the gaze between two children functions as a tool of communication. So I think that this type of openings are much needed alongside with the observations of teacher-child interactions.
Thank you. This was very interesting comment, and I think that Merja also would like to add something here.
Yeah, just to the research methods question. So that is something that I personally look forward to, how to develop new kinds of methods in researching things with children. So I hope that would be in the future the kind of field that develops a lot, because all kinds of visual methods and stories and these kinds of have been developed that the children can express their views through these methods. So I hope that in this area the development will go in the future very fast ahead.
Very good and important point, and let's also hope that in Finland, especially where we work with close connection between the teachers and the early childhood education centers in the field, there are a lot of opportunities for this kind of changing of idea and then creating maybe even totally new understanding, this kind of out of the box understanding that would not be possible due to technology or for some other reasons in, for example, a decade ago. But we were here focusing already a little bit on the teacher's knowledge and teacher education especially. So the teacher education in Finland is said to be research oriented and based only on the academic understanding of the education, also in the field of early childhood education. So Merja, Heidi and Jyrki, you are all working also in the field of teacher training nowadays. So how the teacher education in Finland could or should be developed through research? And if you, Merja, would continue, so please be welcome.
I think that the research is very important. For example, during recent years, there has been this new line of research studying those early childhood education teachers that have just begun to work, and we have found out new things thanks to that research, and sort of the communication and transmitting information with research and then the practices of teacher training, that is very vital. And I think, Jyrki, you have a very good perspective in this sense to this topic.
Please, Jyrki, if you would like to continue.
Yes, actually, my doctoral thesis is about teacher education, and I think the main problem with the teacher education now is that there is the existing science, there are the credits which have already been defined, and the students just make the points or not. So my solution was that from the first day when they start their teacher studies, they go to practice and they work and plan and evaluate and study from the first day. So they don't first learn and then study. They first get to data, they first get practice, and after that they mixed these two things together all the time. That makes it possible for research-based teacher. That makes it, the teaching becomes a work for development. That is, I think, the heart of being an early educator, it is to be a developer of early education.
This is interesting idea, and I think that in Nordic countries we first take the teacher student into the university, and we ensure that they have enough kind of not only theoretical understanding, but kind of that they reflect, they have a critical approach to different already existing both pedagogical tools, but also the policy documents. And then they kind of adapt and they change and they implement. And through that, they kind of need to become as an agent of a change. Jyrki, please.
Yeah, I'd like to continue. I know many of you, how you are able to participate students in their studies and make the theory and practice work together, but still the combination is quite thin. For example, in Helsinki, the reality is that only in the second year they start their first practical studies after more than 1 year doing studies without no long-lasting contact for the practice.
I think, Heidi, that you have been having a long international career before coming back here, Finland, participating and being one of the leading members of our teacher education. So how do you see the role of research in the Finnish teacher education, maybe compared your previous experiences too?
Yes, I think this is a very, very important question from many aspects. You already mentioned, Merja and Jyrki, the research-based teacher education and developing the critical thinking skills. But I see as well, one aspect that we haven't been talking about is the Journal of Early Childhood Education Research. The reason why we are here today is that we are able to sort of through research, bring out those important topics that we think are important in research, and then also teacher education programs can use that open access material in their research-based teaching. Another aspect here is that Journal of Early Childhood Education Research also publishes articles in Finnish language. And I find this extremely important, that we develop the language of research in our own mother tongue, so to say. And I've been working in multiple countries, I think 5 countries in total. And last time when I was in Norway, I was teaching about mixed methods. And I was trying to find out those words, specific words for mixed method in the Norwegian language. And there wasn't any. And I thought that was a very big pity, because we're losing something if we don't have the research language. And we have to keep in mind as well that our early childhood education teacher students, our teacher students in general, they don't necessarily have that good language skills in English, even though the good Finnish education system, there might be a lack. And so on. So we need to make that leap into the research world as narrow as possible. And that is possible through articles that are published in their own mother tongue.
That's very important mention also. And I think that I will elaborate a bit of this topic, that as here, Eeva and Merja, you both have a long pathway with the ECEC journal. And I think that you have also seen the opportunities that those, well, as a pieces of research, one article or then whole numbers, the whole volumes are creating and giving in the field of early childhood education, or also in the level of the teacher education. So would you like to a little bit open the practices? For example, Merja, in Jyväskylä, are the journals already used, how they are used? And then, of course, Eeva, a bit later, if you would like to a little bit tell us that how the research-oriented approach or view from the researchers was kind of brought to the field of early childhood education when you were the founder of this research journal. But please, Merja.
Okay, I think that we all agree that university teaching, it should be always research-based. So I think that the newest information, it's in the articles that are published in journals, and that gives us many interesting new viewpoints to science in general and in early childhood education in particular. So, for example, in our university, as we are planning a new course for the students, we always take a look at what are the recent research publications in this area. So to make sure that our teaching is very tightly based on research, and we are able to transmit to students the latest research information, and also critically discuss about these findings, and sort of teach the students how to read research articles, because that's also kind of a skill that they need to learn to master. So this is very, very critical. And from Finnish perspective, Journal of Early Childhood Education Research has definitely a very, very strong position. For example, in previous years, during as the students were applying to the university, journal articles from ECEC were used as material in these exams. So from early on, the students will become familiar with latest research. And in that, as Heidi mentioned, both Finnish and English articles have their own place.
And please, Eeva, if you would like to contribute a little.
Yes, I remember when we did begin the journal, our goal was to open a forum for our students to publish there. And I think that it's still valuable aim. But then we thought that we have to have a balance published in English and in Finnish. In Finnish, I appreciate that we have so many articles in Finnish, because it's very important for our teachers on the field, that they can read what kind of research we have done in our own country for our own children. But it's important, very important, to be international, in that meaning that we have high quality research in Finland telling about our system. And I have realized that our journal is very well known in all around the world. In many PhDs that I have been evaluating, I have seen many articles in our journal. So I think that we need that kind of forum where our people, our ECEC people can write and maybe motivate to do research further.
Thank you, Eeva and Merja, for also bringing the viewpoint of maybe Journal of Early Childhood Education Research to this discussion. I think it's very important. And also, if I consider the size of Finland as a country where it's kind of hard for a Finnish researcher of education to find these forums, because well, it is not easy to compare the Finnish system, the methodology that teacher practices, the teacher training practices to other countries. So we really have to kind of compete with the high quality research, and to able to write and make high quality research. I think young scholars need this kind of forum that Eeva was mentioned as a forum to be a dialogue with their peers, other researchers, and not always compete each other. I kind of enjoy that, Eeva, you are naming it as a forum, because I think that is where from ancient word comes the place where we can meet and we can discuss, and we don't have to argue and we don't have to compete all the time. So in the field of science, where this kind of researcher against other researchers have been growing stronger past decade, I think in early childhood education, and especially in the Journal of Early Childhood Education Research, we are still having the forum where everybody can kind of participate and feel the membership of this kind of scholar community. I think our time is coming to an end, but we still have time for one more debate or dialogue, and especially Jenni and Samuli, you have been working and making research about the practices and the kind of what taking place in the real early childhood education groups, the classes where children are participating through different research methods. So what do you think? Are the practices in the early childhood education maybe even based on the research findings, research outputs, or are they developing following the research? Or is there some kind of maybe powers in the field that the research have not yet kind of get tackled on? So maybe Samuli, if you would start.
Yeah, if the practice are in the field based on research, some are not. The compulsory curriculum in childhood education and care is quite new thing. So, and perhaps it has been more common that the field has been free to follow the different kind of trends. And this is not said that it could be not research behind these different tools, products of different trends, but I think there is more lack of understanding about these, what is the goals behind these different kind of tools. And staff not always understand when tools are suitable, and then they can also misuse these tools. As example, we talk about the positive pedagogy. It could be one of these kind of super trends that people doesn't understand behind the things. And I also know that there's places where you can find the positive pedagogy. It's they have brought in the curriculum, but they really doesn't say what is the positive pedagogy or how they have to do about that. And it's just people understand that different kind of way. But of course, the misunderstanding could find every ideology or tool. And if the tool is more important, the goal, if they don't understand why they use the pedagogical tools, it's always the missteps. And I have seen the situations where staff have tried to guide the field with the pictures, but they have forgot the interaction. And so they have a good tool, but they don't understand why they use the tool. And I think that's maybe the one problem. But I know that the field want to read about the research and they want to know more, and that's a very good thing. Our blog is very popular. I know it's have written 300,000 times in 3.5 years. So they want to know more. And what Merja said, that the different articles could be difficult to read. So we need different kind of forums, and this kind of thing could be one forum when field can get the information. But I think that we need to focus on the curriculum and not to take every trend what we find and try to get that, and we focus more on that.
Absolutely. Jenni, would you like to contribute?
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to kind of build on Samuli's great response. I fully agree that in my experience as well, the staff in ECEC, they are very keen to learn more about research, and they want to know how to implement different research aspects as part of their teaching. And I had a good opportunity to work with a group of teachers quite some years back. It was an intervention study where we went to daycare centers and primary school first grade classrooms and literally did these workshops with the teachers. And during these workshops, they were observing their own video recordings from their own classrooms, and we were using the videos kind of for them to understand and reflect their own practices. And from these meetings, I really got the idea that they are super interested in improving themselves. They kind of got up very easily what we were pointing them towards, and they were able to reflect how these different aspects of interaction take place with children also in other situations outside the ones that we were actually showing as video clips. And I think that this is something that maybe also Samuli, you were referring to, kind of providing different opportunities for teachers to learn, providing the time. And I felt that during these workshop meetings that took place every month for one full year, they really enjoyed the time when they had time to discuss their own practice, take a kind of deeper look at what they are doing with the children, but also reflect their own practices with their colleagues. Because it seems that during the daytime, they are working with small groups of children. They rarely have the opportunity to come together and really tell what they want to do and how get feedback from each other. So I think that maybe the challenge for the future is to find these interactive ways to discuss the research. I mean, that would be the kind of the first step toward implementing the practices in expected way.
Thank you, Jenni. You are kind of summoning a forum that would be larger than just the scholars coming together and discussing, to invite also the teachers, maybe the parents, even somehow with some methodology, the children to be able to participate on this discussion of what is the future ECEC, because I think everybody here, the stakeholders of ECEC, are aiming to have higher quality, be able to support children's well-being, the family's participation, and also the teachers' kind of educational competencies. But the question is about these forums that can be created and can be managed and can be kind of sent the invitation out to the open, that everybody is welcome, and not everybody needs to be a full scholar able to have this kind of very high-end academic discussion. And I think that's one reason that the ECEC, Journal of Early Childhood Education Research, and also the association that kind of runs it exists in Finland, that we have had long time, if not always, the teachers who are training has been based on the science and the research and scientific findings. And that is kind of one of the great benefits of the Finnish early childhood education and the whole education sectors, that we can kind of trust those who do the education. And we know that they are eager, as you, Jenni, said, that they are eager to learn and develop they kind of professional competencies. But we need also, as a researcher, to remind to open the door for them kind of over and over again. And especially now after the COVID situation and pandemic, when many doors are mostly accidentally closed, we kind of have to pay some attention to reopen them. Or what do you think, Heidi? Would you like to have the final words of this webinar?
Yes, definitely agree. We need to open up the doors. And I think today, this webinar was sort of one part of a larger early childhood education community meeting here today. And I hope we can see more of these openings in the future as well. Where we can sit down and discuss about how to put, what role the research has and how it develops the field and the society in general. And as to all of you who are listening or looking at YouTube, we have these videos coming up in the future as well. So this is one webinar, and then we have also multiple videos coming up in the future regarding different topics of early childhood education from the Journal of Early Childhood Education and also from the Association of Early Childhood Education in Finland. So thank you from my part, and we are taking our responsibility as research and opening up those doors.
Thank you everybody for participating, and my warmest regard to you all, and thank you for all the panelists.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
This was
Bye.
nice.
Thank you. Bye-bye.